Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at the Haggerty10 on the X handle or the Twitter handle. And as you can see, it's the three amigos today. Tuesday is Kevin McKenna Day. Yay! But also Ryan has joined us as well at the Ryan McGinlay on the X or Twitter handle. Morning, gentlemen. How are we? Or should I say, buongiorno to you all?
Benny.
Beh, come va o business, va bene se non c'è male. Don't even know what it means, but it sounds great. There you go. How we doing, guys? We all right? We all good?
All good. How are you, Tony? You all right?
I'm fine. Despite the sleep deprivation, I'm all good. I even kind of pocket dialed you about 2 a.m, didn't I, Ryan? So my apologies for that.
Thankfully, I was still awake, but I was wondering, why are you phoning me at 1:05 at night? I was like, what has broke here? It must be big. Then I realised it was just a pocket dial, so all good.
Yeah, it was Paddy going off his head and me kind of turning on the phone, hitting the last number we dialed. So there you go. Anyway, welcome, gentlemen. Friday. Try that again. Tuesday, the 28th of November, match day 5 in the Champions League. We'll get to that first and foremost. We do our housekeeping, and the morning briefing is brought to you by MPH Group. They're Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trade specialist covering all of mainland Scotland, and every service you opt for automatically enters you into MPH's incredible holiday giveaway. And you could win a 7-night stay at the luxurious 5-star Moon Palace Resort in Cancun, Mexico. And with winter rolling in, and if you're thinking of giving your home heating system a boost, MPH has an enticing Navien Boiler Winter Promotion just for you. And if you opt for a Navien Boiler installation through MPH Boilers, not only are you choosing top-tier efficiency, but you're also getting a free Navien Internet Controller, and that little gadget can crack up your boiler's efficiency to 98%. And the cherry on top of that is that they're covering the first year service with no added costs. MPH even offer flexible finance options, so gear up for a winter chill and consider making a smart move with MPH and Navien, and you'll find all the links to MPH's social media sites, telephone number in the description of this video. And you have 3 days, ladies and gentlemen, to be a part of this. Got to subscribe to this. It's a year of the Celtic way, £12 for 12 months. We think that's outstanding value. And you have until Friday. Hit that button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. £12 for 12 months. Can't say fairer than that. It's the best ever deal. Subscription deal that the Celtic Way has offered. So we appreciate everybody that's taken that up since Friday. You have until this Friday to take it up if you wish, and we thank our regular subscribers as well. So guys, here we are. Kevin, I wanted to come to you first because I know you have lots of things to say, but I wanted to touch upon Saturday and get your thoughts, because myself and Ryan have spoken about it, the aftermatch show, and then obviously yesterday. But your own thoughts on Saturday, Kevin, before we chat all things Lazio?
Well, I've got mixed feelings about Saturday. I have to confess, I couldn't believe what I was reading in some of the immediate aftermatch comments, and also some of the in-game comments when I went back to them later, which suggested it was a shocking performance. We were slow, we were frigid, we just didn't do anything right. There was no imagination, there was no creativity. It was utter nonsense. We come up against a team who probably played in the most defensive setup, deployed the most defensive setup this season, and we created, by my count, at least 4, maybe 5 outstanding chances, and with at least 2 of them, the one-touch football that led to those outstanding chances was good, and the chances should have been taken. And so I don't buy this, that Celtic were sterile and lacking in imagination. That would be true if we didn't create chances. and we did create chances. I've seen Celtic at Parkhead when we won 4-0, 5-0, with not many more chances that we had. And there's large periods of those games against teams similarly set up where it's back to, it's side to side, side to back, probing, 40 passes before we kind of get inside the box. But because the chances have been taken, it's a marvellous performance. I defy anyone to tell me that Celtic, for most of that game, were any worse than other games over the last 2 or 3 seasons where we've scored 4. We simply didn't put the ball in the net from chance. Two of the headers in the second half. How we missed them, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen us get to the byline a bit more, cut it back. I don't think that happened often enough, but nevertheless.
For anyone in particular, Kevin, I'm thinking Kyogo. He automatically springs to mind with those guys.
Yeah, of course. You could maybe have said that Matt O'Reilly maybe wasn't as forensic in his passing as he has been, but that will probably lead on to 1 or 2 comments that you want to make, Tony, especially about where we deploy Kyogo these days, especially in games like that where it's mass defence, and the things that will what will unlock that is those darting off the shoulder runs that Kyogo makes. The goal, utterly preventable. They didn't look organised. I don't know why this was, but when that ball went out for the corner, my heart was in my mouth because
exact same.
And then when it came out, there was just you just had this feeling of immediate
fragility, sense of doom, yeah.
And then when you saw the goal being played back, and it was chaos in there. Nobody knew. There wasn't any leadership. Nobody seemed to know where they were supposed to be. It's not as if there was loads of movement by the Motherwell players, which can get a defence off balance. If they come with a plan, right, you make a darting run, you create a little bit of space inside a crowded box, but there wasn't even that strategy by Motherwell. It's just that the ball came in and suddenly our defence looked like a primary school's. And Big Joe, like others, I love Big Joe, and you always have a chance whenever there's a 1-on-1 against us. You would back Joe to make saves. He's good, great shot stopper. But I now get the feeling that other clubs, when they get the odd corner against us, sense our fragility, and that needs to be sorted out. And it's you can look at Joe Hart and say, well, he should be organising those immediately in front of him. You can maybe look at Cameron Carter-Vickers, who's the most experienced in there. But it's clear that there doesn't appear to have been much strategy worked out on the training ground as to who should be doing what when a corner gets pumped into the box.
Ryan, we spoke about that after the game, didn't we? And we talked about the fact that Celtic are ineffective in terms of conversion rate with corners of their own that they get. Yet there's a fragility. There's a fragility, as Kevin said there, defensively, because it's not the first goal we've conceded from a corner this season. I'm thinking second phase of play, first goal from the Lazio game, wasn't it? That came from a corner, didn't it? Yeah.
Did we not concede one against Ross County as well?
Ross County as well, yeah. I was just trying to remember going through the Rolodex of the games in my head there, Mm-hmm. That's an old thing, buying a Rolodex, That's something you and Kevin will understand. But no, we've touched upon that, haven't we? That for a team that get as many corners, we can't do what other teams do to us.
Yeah,
that's
Motherwell,
from
the Motherwell
those set piece
fans,
opportunities. Yeah,
the Motherwell fans celebrated that corner kick as if it was a penalty because they knew that this was the opportunity that they were waiting on. They had to come out their shell. The time wasting stopped when they went 1-0 down thanks to David Turnbull's penalty. You could see they put their foot on the gas. They knew they had to get something from the game, and they were forced into doing something that they weren't doing all game, and that was playing with a bit of speed. They get that deflection that goes for the corner, and all of a sudden, their tails are up. They're ready to put a ball into the box. They've got so many players that are over 6 foot. It's unbelievable. It's as if whenever they brought on a substitution on Saturday, they brought on somebody that was bigger than the other player. It's as if they were waiting for that one moment to attack.
but do you
Somehow,
know what shocked me, Ryan? I expected that to be swung over for a big guy to header it in, but it wasn't. It was kind of drilled. Well, I don't know. Wasn't up there,
it was drilled in with pace, but it wasn't as if it was high or floating or anything like that.
Yeah,
it was into an area.
Yeah,
shoulder height, wasn't it? I was going to say shoulder just below head height, and and I think that could have been dealt with. And I go back to what Kevin says well about the goalkeeper, Ryan. He's the only one that can use his 2 hands. He's a protected species. Come out and it's their last chance saloon. Come out and be commanding there.
I don't know what he was doing with that goal whatsoever. He found himself in no man's land, and then all of a sudden just jumped out of nowhere. It's as if he get caught in 2 minds on what to do. We've spoken about Joe Hart at length on this podcast. We spoke about how that is a position that in the short to medium term it's going to need to be rectified, because Celtic need, I think, a better younger goalkeeper. There's always the worry when you're bringing a younger goalkeeper that he's going to be another Barkas, he's going to be an absolute bomb scare. But Celtic have got to do their scouting here. They've got to find the next generation of goalkeeper that can be in there for the next 3 to 4 years. For whatever reason, I mean, Joe Hart they pulled off a good save earlier on in the game, but that doesn't count for anything if you make yourself. He was in an area, he couldn't do that. He couldn't do anything. I'd put as much blame on Greg Taylor as I would on Joe Hart for the goal. Although Greg Taylor's about a foot smaller than the guy that he was marking, which is a problem in itself because you get bullied in the box by Obita. I mean, Obita will bully people because he is massive, but it's that shouldn't have been happening. It should have been Carter Vickers or Scales that were marking him, not Greg Taylor. But at the same time, he should have been stronger. It's a good header. Like it was one of those sneaky headers that Joe Hart can do nothing about in the guy in the post if there was a guy in the post. But it's a very, very preventable goal, and it's a goal that gets worse every time I watch it back, if I'm being honest.
Obika's only doing what every big striker's doing. He's in there for pest and nuisance value, isn't he? I don't think Obika's thinking he's going to get on the end of it, but he's going to throw himself towards it, isn't he? And he's got the kind of the flick on, and it always seemed to happen in slow motion, the goal, didn't it?
Wow.
Because, you spoke about the 2 Celtic headers that were missed. That doesn't even look as if it's going in target. And it just kind of comes off his head and, and trickles into the bottom corner. And as you say, Ryan, the more you watch it back, the more you get frustrated, don't you? And
I've got to say, Tony, I've been less frustrated due to the results that happened 24 hours later on. I can deal with watching the goal again, but maybe it's more of a missed opportunity in that regard, with the fact that Celtic were up 1-0 after 86 minutes and still couldn't hang on at home against the struggling Motherwell side. But I think, and I haven't been on since Sunday, since that result, the Aberdeen Rangers result happened. Celtic got away with one at the weekend. They dropped points. Celtic should not be dropping points at home. That's them dropped points at home twice against St Johnstone and Motherwell. 2 teams that at the time when they were coming to Celtic Park, they were struggling. Every team seemed to be beating those 2 teams, and Celtic have struggled. They've gotten away with one, and I hope that that's the wake-up call, really, that you can't take your eye off it, especially at home.
I was making the point, Kevin, in the piece that I did with Kyogo, which Ryan kind of put in the comment section. You can have a read at that, guys. My thoughts on Kyogo reverting back to an out-and-out striker. But the 3 domestic games where Celtic have dropped points, they all seem to have been carbon copies of each other.
Yeah.
0-0 against St Johnstone, 0-0 against Hibs, and 1 each against Motherwell. And I know you said there at the top of the programme that you didn't think there was a lack of creativity, certainly in the Motherwell game. Against St Johnstone, they did create chances. Matt O'Reilly was main culprit that day. He missed a couple, but I think they've all kind of followed a similar pattern, haven't they? In terms of the way Celtic and the nature of the way Celtic have dropped points in those games.
I wouldn't. I'm loath to include any game against Hibs at Easter Road in games where you're
because Brendan hasn't won there.
Well, there's that, but I mean, Hibs at Easter Road is never. You can never be guaranteed points. I know that Celtic should always go into these games as favourites, but Hibs are capable of taking points off anybody at Easter Road when their tails are up, and they've got such a passionate backing, and it's a great wee ground, signature ground that's all theirs, no matter how many fans they allow, no matter how many Celtic fans get in. So, 0-0 draws, 1-1 draws against Hibs at Easter Road happen. I wouldn't say they're routine, but they happen because, they're sturdy in front of their own fans. The other two, eminently winnable, as you said, Ryan, in both occasions were up against teams who are in the middle of bad runs, who everyone else seems to be. Although I would say that Motherwell had a great start to the season, and then they were so unlucky on 3 or 4 of the wheels began to come off in the first 3 or 4 games that they lost or drew. They were really unlucky. You could consider that they were unlucky being beaten by us at Fir Park, because I thought they played really well that day. I think Celtic still created many more chances than them, but I couldn't have complained if that had been a 1-1 draw at Fir Park. And hence the celebration of their little knot of fans, and I wouldn't begrudge them that either, because like any other away fans from smaller clubs taking anything from Parkhead, of course they should celebrate. Absolutely, 100%. And it was quite, in some ways, it was almost heartwarming. But yeah, Kyogo, I've seen some criticism of him, and I've seen it before. And it's when obviously when he doesn't score, when Kyogo doesn't score, people then focus on how much he does. His so-called work rate, and it's very one-dimensional, because it's like he didn't do much in the game, he didn't touch the ball often enough, i.e. he's not working. Well, he works his socks off. I mean, you don't see Kyogo standing still. Even when the ball's down the other end of the park, he's always alert. And there was something that you'd said before the programme, Tony, and you've said it on here too, that if he only gets 3 or 4 touches and he scores with 1, maybe 2 of them, then he's done his job. And also, I think, and I agree with what you wrote today, that we use him as a poacher, as an off-the-shoulder last man poacher, as Postecoglou did. And I can see what Brendan's thinking is, because as well as being a poacher, he's got a great first touch in terms of playing people in. If he had been a midfielder and we'd signed him as a midfielder, he'd be a good midfielder, because he's got a great touch and he's got vision and he knows where other players in the pitch are and he can pick them out with 1 touch. I get that. However, he's a goal scorer. And how many times, if you look at the number of games where he scored 1, 2 goals, the number of touches he had in those games would maybe, barely hit double figures, significant touches. But nobody ever talks about that because he scored the goals. He doesn't score a goal and suddenly, he's a lazy sod, and it's nonsense. Nonsense. I don't care if he's loitering and we don't see him for 20, 25 minutes. I mean, look at the cup, the game in the cup final against Inverness Caledonian Thistle was a case in point. It looked as if he was having a bad game. because he wasn't in it, and it's first division opposition. And then bang! I mean, that ball was in the net in record time.
You look at the League Cup final against Rangers as well. Two similar balls into the box. He's alert and alive, and I would never criticise his work rate, because I agree completely. Ryan, he's still making the same runs. The style of play at the minute, they're just not catering to that, and that he's not been found.
I feel like
he's not a bad footballer, but you said to me yesterday off air, when I said to you, and you said he's the star player, he's a fulcrum of that team, and he should be, right? And I know Brendan Rodgers is all about the team, but there are some players that are standout players, aren't there? And
there's a reason why he was front and centre of the Christmas advert, because he is the star of Celtic, and he's got to be treated as such. I think.
Kenny Dalglish was a goal scorer, was a star player of the team. Charlie Nicholas was the same. Larson was the same. Right, but all those guys, they were team players as well. But they had that star quality which marked them out as being special, and they all knew where the goal was. That's the point I'm making, and he's a natural striker for a reason. That's what he does. Those trademark runs to the near post, those one-touch finishes, that's his currency. That's how he's got 62 goals for Celtic at this minute in time.
It's an incredible amount, especially when you think of the lack of touches that he has. It means that he has to make, well, he's only going to get 2 or 3 chances a game, if even that. So when he gets those chances, he has to make it count. Now, I go back to one of the first seasons, and I'm showing my age here, just a tiny bit. My second season of when I had a season ticket was when Celtic signed both Gary Hooper and Anthony Stokes for the team. Now, they both had the touches of the ball so many times in the game. I can remember numerous times when they could just run to the goal and take about 5 or 6 or 7 touches before getting a shot away. It seems that those days have passed, and that Kyogo just will not get that amount of time. These players had all the time on the ball. Maybe, I don't know if that's down to defences getting better, defences getting more wise to a striker. But it seems as if Kyogo's job is harder. And if you were to take Kyogo and put him into that team 12 years ago, how many goals would he score? Given how good his finishing is. It just seems as if it's a really, really difficult task for him. He hardly gets any service to begin with. I think that's maybe more of a problem of the wingers, that they need to get the ball into Kyogo's feet a wee bit quicker, or get it into the vicinity of Kyogo a bit quicker. But yeah, I think that Brendan Rodgers could get more out of Kyogo, that is for sure. And he's got to get more because, he's the star man at Celtic in terms of an attacking sense. Whenever you ask anybody, if you ask opposition fans who's the player that they fear the most up front, or in an attacking sense, they'll all say Kyogo, and there's a reason for that, because he's a predator in front of goal. It's up to Brendan Rodgers to bring back that predator side, because yes, his goal record is good, but at the same time, you should see Kyogo out clear in front at the moment. Like, as good as it is to see David Turnbull at the top of the goal scoring charts with 7 goals, Kyogo should have 12 or 13. I would reckon by this time, because he's not had any injuries. He's been in and around the team the whole season, so he should be. I think he should be so far ahead. It's good that the goals are getting spread out with O'Reilly, with Palmer, with Turnbull, and other players as well. But I want to see my striker scoring the most goals for the team, because then it shows that the system is working and the striker is doing his job, which is scoring goals. As much as I like him being a provider, his numbers aren't all that great for being a provider, to be honest, because he's not exactly high up in assists. So why you make him doing something that he's not as good at?
Yeah. I tell you what, I would like, Kevin.
His own devices, he can score goals. Let him score goals. You've converted me, Tony, because I did want to see him do more. But at the same time, I want him to do what he's best at, and that's scoring goals for Celtic.
62 goals, 12 assists. There's a bit of a disparity there, so we know what he's what his forte is. Now, Kevin, I tell you what, I'd like it we do score in Rome tonight. Not just Kyogo. I'd like any Celtic player to score in Rome tonight and contribute to a wonderful result. There's Paddy. He's given it wahoo for tonight. Rome, he's up there. Forza Celtic, I think, was the message behind that there. But yeah, Rome tonight, Kevin, it is a huge game. And I think Celtic's hands forced in the sense that it's win or bust. So I quite like those scenarios sometimes.
Yeah, I think Celtic should go out and play the way set up the way that they set up in the first game, which if Celtic had won that game, they would have deserved it. And nobody could argue. I mean, it could have gone either way, and it did sadly go Lazio's way, but it could have gone our way. Celtic played some
gentlemen. You talk amongst yourselves to sort these nuts out. Honest to goodness.
Yeah, I'm not saying Celtic shouldn't have anything to fear tonight, Ryan, which would be stupid, but nor should they be going in thinking that a result is just beyond them. I don't think Lazio are that much better than when we played them in Rome a few years ago. Celtic played really good football that night too, made several chances. Obviously, it'll be a bigger crowd because it's Champions League, and Lazio still have a good chance of getting in the top two positions. But Celtic play well. See if you look over the years, our record against Italian teams. There was a blip where we were beaten 2 or 3 times by AC Milan, but since I think that the first time we played an Italian team was European Cup final, 67, and then we should have beaten AC Milan in 69 after getting a draw in the San Siro. We beat Fiorentina the following year. We drew twice with Inter Milan. Not many teams go to the San Siro twice in succession against 2 iterations of Milan, Inter and AC, when they were brilliant. I remember when Juventus finally beat us at Parkhead a few seasons ago, they were celebrating wildly, and the Italian press was hailing the fact that this was their first time breaching the Celtic fortress in Glasgow, because we'd beaten them 1-0, Murdo McLeod in 81. We'd beaten them 4-3 in that memorable game in 2001. We'd beaten AC Milan 2-1. We drew a couple of times with them. And then, of course, we beat Lazio home and away. So Celtic shouldn't have a great deal to fear. I mean, obviously, we're missing some players, and God, I want to see Abada back so much. We've missed him. We've really missed him. And I can't wait for him to come back.
Ryan, you said that Celtic have missed Haggerty too, but Abada was another one that you mentioned as well, wasn't it? Yeah,
I tweeted about him the other day. I think Celtic are missing his goals and assists. I think there's a few elements of his game that he still needs to iron out. He's only 22 years old. Time certainly has flied, because I remember him making his debut as a 19-year-old. Now all of a sudden he's 22. That shows you just how long he's been. And I think that's maybe where, I don't know, maybe the leeway goes, because he's been there for 3 years now. He could be considered one of the more senior players. This is the time for him to step up when he gets back from his injury. But what I will say about him is that he guarantees goals and assists. In both of his seasons, his previous seasons, he's got double digits in goals and assists. I would say his first season was better than his second, but we did see some nice developments under Brendan Rodgers, that there was a different element to him, or an improvement in his game in the early weeks of the season. I think it's been quite quiet, the fact that Abada, I think people have forgotten about the fact that Abada signed a new 4-year deal as well. There was a lot of speculation that he was going to leave the club to go to Ajax, maybe to Sporting Lisbon as well. Two big teams, 2 struggling teams as well. But the fact that he signed up for his long-term future shows that he knows his worth. He'll be back in the team around about December time. For that, the business end of the season, going into December, January time, to have Abada back will be brilliant. I think it'll be good for Yang as well, because then the pressure won't be on him so much to deliver in every single game. Now, I know he delivered against Aberdeen, but for a 21-year-old that's already played half a season in the K-League to come into Celtic and then play another full season, I think Celtic have got to manage his minutes effectively. They don't want another Haggerty situation happening in his first season. Remember, Haggerty was so good.
Yeah.
And then he burned out completely. Postecoglou continued to play him. And I think that was one of the reasons why Celtic didn't get the job done at Hampden in that semi-final, was because Haggerty was running on empty for the whole game. So if he can be managed,
at least you're over that semi-final defeat, Ryan. I'm glad about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Gotten over it.
There was no doubt in my head that Celtic were going to win that game too, especially the fact that Rangers were playing on the Thursday. But that didn't happen. Celtic didn't turn up on the day. Loads of injury issues as well. On that day, I remember Stephen Welsh playing. Was it at left back in extra time, which was not ideal. But yeah, I think with Abada, he's a guaranteed goal or an assist every other game. You need that in your team. You know, with Jota leaving. And I'm sorry to bring up Jota again. And Palma does get a goal or an assist in most games. Be good to have that on the other side of the pitch as well. As much as I'm enjoying Yang's development and the fact that I think he will be a very, very good player in about a year or two, much like Odin Thiago Holm. I think Abada, you'll see a more senior figure. And it's weird calling him a senior figure because he's only 22. But I think he's got around about 100 appearances for Celtic. So, you know, having that experience to come back in at right wing will be so important going forward. I really look forward to his return. I think a lot of Celtic fans do too.
Kevin, I know we've got personnel issues tonight, but who do you play tonight? What's your thoughts on kind of a starting 11 or who fills certain holes? Because obviously most of the team kind of picks itself, doesn't it?
Our options are a wee bit limited for
a game of such magnitude.
Yeah, and for reasons that we've already discussed, it almost picks itself, and it wouldn't depart much, I suppose, from. There's an issue about right back, because I thought Tony Ralston played well, put in a couple of good crosses from which we got two of our best chances. But whether it's him or Anthony Johnson, I think both of them, Johnson is solid. It was a wee bit of a drop off recently. I just can't. I can't see past the goalkeeping issue. You know, you could set up that team as it was on Saturday. They'll do a job. I mean, they have to be told to be disciplined because, as I said on here the last time, Tony, we've had 3 red cards in Champions League for avoidable. Now, you can argue till you're blue in the face about whether they ought to have been red cards, but I'll counter that by saying, why were we making tackles like that, especially that one in Madrid? Why are we making a tackle like that against a player in his own half who's facing away from goal? You know, the really good players just don't make those tackles because what's the point? That's going to be big because, you know, Lazio will be at all the artifices. But again, you know, I just think no matter how, you know, in Madrid and against Feyenoord, the other 2 away games, Celtic started really well. We're knocking it about. We're playing with a bit of confidence. And then, bang, we make a misjudgment. And part of it is because of that fragility. And they've done their homework and they've seen the highlights of they'll have seen the game on Saturday, and they, like Motherwell, like Ross County, like St Johnstone, will know that we are vulnerable when it comes to corners, set pieces out of the box.
Yeah. Ryan, your thoughts on starting 11s? You got the same reservations about Kevin, goalkeeper. Do you play 4 or 5 at the back even?
The thing is that Celtic didn't play 5 at the back against Atletico Madrid. Now, I think Atletico Madrid are a far, far better team than Lazio. You know, their respective league positions would show that. Lazio are currently 11th in Serie A. Now, I know that Celtic have been faltering as well. So, you know, it's 2 teams that are maybe feeling down about themselves. But Lazio, you know, for a team that I think they finished 2nd last season.
They did.
Under Sarri. I know Sarri's under quite a bit of pressure just now as well. You know, a very, very good manager, an experienced manager for Napoli and Chelsea as well, but in Juventus too. But he's really, really struggling at the moment to get things ticking for Lazio. The fact that they haven't played 5 at the back, I don't know why they would Celtic have got to win this game at the end of the day. So I don't think there's a point in playing 5 at the back. Throw caution to the wind.
I was just
got
throwing
to
it
go
out
for
there
it.
to see if tactics.
No, and I
to
think
get
it's
a
something,
result,
especially with the current defensive. I'm not going to say crisis. It's not a crisis at all. It's the opposite. But the headache in defence, the fact that £8 million worth of defenders aren't getting onto the bench because of Liam Scales. 3 at the back could be an avenue that Celtic look to go down eventually. They've got to get their value for money in Mike Nawrowski and Gustav Lagerbielke at some point. They can't be sitting on the bench. Their assets are dwindling because of that, because they're not making teams. I think that one of them will make the team tonight due to the fact it's a bigger bench in Lagerbielke, but that is a problem going forward. I know I keep on mentioning it in every podcast. It seems that I talk about the defensive, and that's all down to Scales and credit to him. But at the same time, there's players that need to be playing games, and if they're not playing games, then it's hurting their value and it's hurting their development. So, yeah, with the 5 at the back, as much as I do want to see it at some point, or 3 at the back with 2 wing backs, and that might suit certain players in Celtic's team. I think it'll be 4 at the back tonight. Looking at the wing positions, the fact that Lewis Palmer's suspended is an issue. That's down to probably his temperament and picking up needless yellow cards in the group stage in the Champions League games. So, you're looking at your options. It's not exactly standout in terms of wing options. Do you throw in James Forrest, a guy that scored at the Stadio Olimpico the last time he was there?
The manager made a point yesterday in his press conference, a big point of saying that he was available and that he trained.
I think he probably
would. He wasn't on the bench on Saturday because he wanted him to train. So I've got a feeling James Forrest will start.
I was going to say that in answer to your last question, that Forrest will probably start.
Yeah, for that experience.
I think it'll be Forrest and Yang or Forrest and Johnson or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but the options that are there are very limited, down to injuries and a 1-game suspension for Palmer as well. If Palmer was fit, he would be playing because you'd need him as an outball for sure. But the fact that he's not there, I think you might need somebody streetwise like James Forrest, who's done it before, who can carry the ball and who's a threat in front of goal as well. Having somebody like him who's done it, you need a wee bit of experience. I know it was the Europa League, but still the same stadium. If he's called upon, then you're hoping that he could produce a vintage performance like the one he did back in 2019.
Yeah, I've no doubt in my mind, Kevin, that James Forrest is going to start tonight.
Yeah. This could be a defining moment for him this season. There was people who argued against him getting any extension to his contract because his performance value has dwindled with the years. But he's kept himself very fit. He's still sharp. He's got that experience. We're going to really need experience tonight at certain parts of the game. Definitely. He can finish. He's had a few great finishes for us away from home in Europe, and he will be aware that a lot is expected of him, or rather, a lot will be on his shoulders because of the injury concerns. And he'll if he does start, he will have been made aware that he was starting a few days ago.
Yeah.
And he's never anything other than professional and prepared, James Forrest, whenever he's been called upon. So yeah, I've no fears. And we don't have any options there anyway because of that. But your points, Ryan, about the surfeit of central defenders that we have and the need to give them game time shows again, the kind of the costs of going out in the first round of the League Cup to Kilmarnock, because you. Initially, the kind of first 2 games in the League Cup before you get to the semi-final, they can be opportunities to give a bit of just to give some game time to people on the fringes of the squad or those seeking to establish themselves. And of course, we lost that. And I mean, even the semi-final, if we had got that far. So yeah, there's some people who say, well, it's only the League Cup. We've won 6 out of the last 7. But I just see it as an opportunity to kind of use the full, give you a few more opportunities to stretch the legs of other members of the squad.
Yeah,
because I've just thought of something, Tony. Potentially, you're looking at the wing options. Celtic signed Kyogo as a winger. He was playing as a winger for Vissel Kobe. Do you play Kyogo out wide and then have a target man and O up front? Maybe he could switch it up a bit. I mean, there are good options such as Forrest and Yang, but you could potentially switch it up, put Kyogo out wide, you might get a bit more space out there, and put a focal point up front and O who can rustle up the defenders.
Celtic have to win tonight, so he has to come up with some form of game plan to win that football match.
That's not a bad sound, Ryan.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you go with Owen Kyogo? That was, you came in just before I was going to say that as well. But
there's a chance he had on Saturday in particular that he just scuffed. Where if it's the other way about, and this is maybe I don't know why Kyogo was taken off so early on in the game. It seemed as if they were going to go with the two. Maybe Kyogo was playing as an attacking mid, and then O as the focal point. And then about 10 minutes later, he reverted back to type and took them off. He took off Palma as well, which I thought was weird considering he can't play tonight. I thought he would get the whole 90. I don't know if that was down to Honduras duty, but there was a chance that O had that he's completely scuffed. It came to him and he totally missed the ball. You're like, if that's Kyogo, it's at least going on target and more often than not going in the back of the net. It always seems to happen though, whenever Kyogo gets taken off, and a chance gets presented to somebody else. Kyogo would have scored that. You're like, but why is he not on the pitch then to take that chance? and even more so, why is he not getting made those chances when he is on the pitch? Why is it taking him coming off to fashion these chances? Because if you give him these chances, he's going to score. He's got a proven track record. He's a guarantee of goals. And I'm sorry to bring it back to Kyogo, but I want to see more. I had a look at as you two was talking, I had a look at the SPFL top goal scorers. It's joint top with Tavernier and David Turnbull at the moment. Kyogo's on 6 goals in 14 Premiership games. That's not a great record for Kyogo, and I don't think it's getting talked about enough. I think more needs to be...
Don't worry, I'll get talked about soon enough if it continues on 6 goals in X amount of games. But
it won't continue. It's not going to continue. He's going to start knocking him in. Come on.
I mean, he's scored 2 goals in the Champions League, so he's been one of the better players in the Champions League this season. I just want to see a better record.
I also think there's merit in what you say with the likes of Kyogo playing out wide and O up front, because I think for nuisance value alone, you're going to have to trouble their defenders, aren't you? And O could do that in a kind of big man, little man combination up front type thing. But I just don't think Brendan will go with 2. And his comments about Forrest just lead me to believe that he's going to play Forrest. And what you said there, Kevin, Forrest will have been told that. And the very fact that he said he never put Forrest on the bench because they wanted to get some training into him. So I was, again, trying to connect dots and lines and think, he's been told, isn't he? I need you fit for the Lazio game, because you're going to have to do me a turn for Lazio game, because you're more experienced than X, Y, Z, i.e. the likes of Yang, and you scored the last time you were there, the stadium and all that kind of stuff. So I think he's going to turn to him, but I think it's a viable option to play Kyogo out wide and O up front.
Yeah.
If he was that way inclined, Kevin. But just the way he spoke about Forrest makes me think that he's going to turn to him because he likes Forrest. He's mentioned Forrest a few times, Brendan Rodgers, talking about his professionalism and his ability as well. So just my thoughts on it.
But we also have to start talking about the status of Taylor in the team, because much as though I admire what he, how he's established himself in the team, and he's playing at the very limits of his ability, gives everything. I have to say, I just think he's just short of what we are requiring. I'm beginning to sense that domestically, other clubs are sensing a fragility there. Part of it is to do with his height, and his kind of lack of physical stature. But for me, the main part of it is when you're playing away from home in Europe against good teams, the importance of retaining possession under pressure is paramount, and that requires players who can play with either foot, one touch into the feet, under pressure quickly, and I don't see it with Taylor. I just simply don't think he has those tools to do it. He's got loads of other attributes, but see at that level in Europe, you're losing possession or passing to the wrong player inside your own half in an away game like that, you're punished, and we're going to have to look at that. And when I watch this game tonight, I'll be when the ball comes to him, I'll be watching through cracks in my fingers. I so want him to do well. I so admire what he's, how he's established himself in the team, his work rate, making the most of what he has, putting in a shift. That's just not enough at that level.
Yeah.
And I was going to say a key position, but every position's key now in that level. You get found out, the barest whisper of weakness is pounced upon by teams from Italy, teams from Spain, teams from Germany.
Yeah, I think effort and application are prerequisites for any Celtic player, and
Of course,
I think Taylor's going through maybe a kind of the Ralston scapegoat phase, but the eye test doesn't lie. The statistics might say something different, Ryan, but I agree with Kevin, and you don't want to berate players or have a go at them, but I think in the summer, if you were asked about targets, everybody kept saying it, didn't they? A goalkeeper, a left back, and a striker, right? That was the three.
Goalkeeper and left back caused the goal on Saturday.
Yeah,
and we were worried about those positions in Europe.
Yeah, correct.
Now it's happening domestically.
And you've been worried about those positions not just in summer, but for a wee while.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and there are names that keep recurring in this conversation about weak links and what do you need to improve. And those names are Joe Hart and Greg Taylor, aren't they? We can't run away from that.
Yeah, I thought he was.
We're not decrying the service they've done up to this point for the club and their achievements for the club, but I think, Kevin, you touched upon it there. At this level, and the manager talks about it as well a lot, at this level, your deficiencies are cruelly exposed. You're found out, and players like Greg Taylor and Joe Hart are found out more often than not, Ryan.
Yeah, I think the fullbacks in particular in Europe have been really, really poor. You look at the goals that Celtic have conceded, you can attribute a number of those goals in Madrid. They all come down Alistair Johnston's side. I look at Morata's goal especially, a goal to make it 2-0 just before half-time, which is basically the end of the game.
That was a killer.
Yeah, it was the worst time to concede, as well as being down to 10 men. He gives, I'm trying to think who it was down that side. It's either Hermoso or somebody like that put the header into Morata. No, it was Jimenez. He got the header into Morata, but he had the freedom of Madrid to do so. Going back to Taylor, I thought he was very, very poor on Saturday. He's reverted back to the way he was, unfortunately, in 2019, 2020. Now, I think Ange Postecoglou was the best thing that happened to him in terms of his Celtic career, because he was playing him inverted, and he's good on the ball. He's a good passer of the ball. He can make things happen. I just think he's gotten a lot more negative under Brendan Rodgers. How many times did he pass the ball back? You know, how many times would Ange Postecoglou have shouted at him if he passed the ball back under his watch at Celtic Park a couple of seasons ago?
He wouldn't have
It seemed as if
passed
it
the
was
ball
just
back
allowed.
under his watch, yeah.
Yeah, it seemed as if it was allowed at the weekend. I think it's a place where teams seem to be profiting from more and more. I think Celtic could improve exponentially with an athletic left back that can run with the ball at his feet. Maybe even somebody more like Alistair Johnson. He is athletic. He's maybe not got the best attacking attributes, but he's not going to get bullied off the ball. That's for sure. He's made of hard stuff. He played ice hockey growing up. He's from Canada. He's got all those attributes. I just think for fullbacks, and especially in a Brendan Rodgers system, you can't have slight players. You've got to have guys that are willing to put the work in. Well, I know that Greg Taylor's willing to put the work in. There's no doubt about that. But willing to get involved in the physical battle, to push people off the ball. They've got to be an extension of the centre halves, but they're more attacking and they go down the wing and put crosses into the box. You look at Lustig. Lustig didn't get bullied off the ball. The one time that he did struggle against Ryan Kent back in 2018, 2019 was because his legs were gone, because, he was 31, 32 at that point. But before then, he was a physical specimen. He could get around. I know he was a right back and Greg Taylor's a left back, but I want somebody, you look at Kieran Tierney, don't want to compare the two. Very difficult to replace a player like Kieran Tierney. Celtic tried twice with both Greg Taylor and Ball and Golly. Less said about the latter, the better. I just think that Celtic need a physical player at left back to not take any prisoners and put balls into the box, especially under Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers had a really good player in Timothy Castagna who could do that at Leicester. He had Ricardo as well, Ricardo Pereira, who was also down either left back or right back. I think he was a right back.
That's the Timothy Castagna that Celtic could have signed for £8 million.
Yeah.
I just don't think Celtic were going to spend £8 million on a left back, unfortunately. These are maybe the markets that Celtic need to be, because you see the difference.
Doesn't it? Yes, of course.
He's playing for Fulham. He was playing for Fulham last night against Wolves. One of those players that I forgot even moved to Fulham in the first place. But yeah, you need somebody physical in that left back position. I think Greg Taylor's okay domestically, although there's evidence against that, judging by the weekend, judging by the goal that Celtic conceded. But I think that has got to be top of the shopping list for if not January, then the summer, and maybe even underlined and underscored and everything. It's got to be obvious that Celtic, it's got to be hammered home that Celtic need a left back for next season, and a good one at that.
But I think you're right, Kevin. If Greg Taylor's not inverted and he's being positive and he's playing a lot of back passes, in that'll get targeted in a game like tonight, because they will have sussed out that that's potentially one of Celtic's weaker links. And you said every time he gets the ball, you might watch it through splayed fingers. But it's a worry, isn't it? You can't run away from it. That it's a worry about tonight as well.
Yeah, although the main worry is can we hurt Lazio?
Yeah.
I know I've said that we don't have anything to fear in terms of if we win in Rome, it will be a surprise, but it wouldn't be a massive surprise. We did it before. I would have liked to have gone there with a fuller squad and more options. But even if Abada and Hatate had been available, we've still got those two vulnerabilities at goalkeeper and left back. This is maybe a discussion for another time. But we have we don't have a midfield enforcer. And I'm not talking about I'm not talking about somebody who's all brawn and no skill. I'm talking about somebody who can, when you're under pressure, can make tackles and can break up attacks. And that's not Callum. That's not Callum's forte, nor is it Hatate or O'Reilly or Turnbull. And we've missed that because it's another option. It just adds another dimension to the game. It's
you're talking a Victor Wanyama type, aren't you? That's
and I just, maybe you just grow too accustomed. I don't know. I might be completely wrong here. Maybe I'm guilty of backward thinking when all other, sophisticated European teams, play fast one-touch football and don't really rely or put an awful lot of store by players who are ball winners and break up attacks, because it's more about what they do when they've got the ball in possession. I don't know. I just like to see a bit of muscle in there.
Seen it for a while as well, haven't you? About a midfield enforcer, but you're saying someone that can play football, right?
Every good team has a number 6.
Yeah, a tall guy.
Symmetry in modern football. Every good modern team has a good number 6, an enforcer. Don't even necessarily have to be an enforcer, just a guy that can connect the defence to the midfield. The best in the world, in my opinion, at doing it just now, plays for Man City, and Rodri, and he hardly tackles.
Absolutely.
He has the glue that sticks. He's Man City's probably best player in that regard, because he keeps everybody ticking.
But you look at Man City; they've always had those types, haven't they? Going back to
they had Fernandinho, who was the best before him, I would say.
Yeah, Toure, guys like that. You know what I mean? So they've always had that kind of presence in the middle of the park. Because
thing about Yaya Toure, he's a goal threat.
Mike Summerby.
Yes, going back to that, yes, indeed, Kevin. But
they're fabulous 1970 European Winners' Cup winning team.
Yeah, indeed, Summerby, yeah, indeed.
I just think every good team has a number 6 there. They don't even need to be big in stature. Cal McGregor has been playing there, but they need to have the basics tied down. I think, Cal McGregor is a player that has been used to playing further forward for the vast majority of his career. And that's maybe to his detriment in that number 6 role, because he's got attacking tendencies that he can't call upon due to the fact that he's playing in a position he's only been playing in for 2-3 years at max. He was usually a number 8, and between the number 10 and the number 6. Now he's a number 6, but at the same time he's not really a number 6 because he doesn't really do the defensive work. He's like Rodri without the physicality, in a sense. And that's not to say he's lightweight or anything like that. It's just his stature. I think but it would be interesting to see if Celtic, if they played a number 6 and potentially a Wata, who doesn't seem to be getting a look in at all, or if they were to sign a number 6, then where would Cal McGregor go? Because, what age is he? 29, 30 now? Can he still play that further forward role? I know he's done it in parts for Scotland, but is he still the same player that he was 4 or 5 years ago in an attacking sense? There would be question marks on that. So there's a lot of problems. I think the problem in midfield at the moment tonight is that who is going to take that third spot, because you just know that Cal McGregor and Matt O'Reilly are going to play tonight. Who's going to be that third player? On form, it has to be David Turnbull, like I said before the Motherwell game. But at the same time, what David Turnbull is going to bring you, but also what David Turnbull isn't going to give you, that's unfortunately a bit of dig, a bit of physicality. It's not the very thing
and enforcer comment, physicality and enforcer.
So that's fine, because he's the number 8 or number 10.
And that's therein lies the rub and the dilemma, Kevin. Who do you play in the midfield? There's the Iwata equation, isn't there? Could he come in and be the enforcer, type, or else is it Turnbull? Because again, he can strike them from 20 yards.
It has to be Turnbull, because he's been in and around the team. And he's got the goal threat. He's got a bit of confidence about him. Brendan Rodgers has shown a degree of belief in him that wasn't really there under Postecoglou. I think it would be unfair on him and also Iwata just to bring Iwata straight in, not having really figured. He should be. You're wanting him to play himself to the edges of a game such as this if they were going to play him, and that hasn't really happened for him for a number of reasons. It has to be Turnbull.
Yeah. You agree with that, Ryan?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. There was another point that I was going to make just quickly. This is the only point that I want to make, and then I'm fine with anything else. But I need to hammer home this point about the number 6. Instead of Celtic, signing number 6s, you look at Quan under £1 million, look at Iwata under £1 million. They're wasting money on £2 million for players that aren't going to realistically take Cal McGregor out the team. Instead, they should be spending £5, £6, £7 million on a player that's going to force his way into the team. That's going to make Cal McGregor move his position. I just think it's so important, and there won't be a point in signing a player like that in January because unless Celtic do get 2 wins in a row, which could happen in the Champions League and they qualify for the Europa League, there's not a point for Celtic to have a number 6 in the league.
I know,
because they don't face the same sort of adversity. They don't. In fact, it takes away from the midfield because then there's not an attacking midfielder there. As you see, Celtic spread out all their goals in the midfield, in the wing position, and up front. I just think in the summer that has got to be, along with left back and goalkeeper, the defensive mid. They can't throw maybe £1 million, £2 million about at a player, and maybe he can play 5 or 6 games a season, or he can come on and give Cal McGregor a rest after 70, 80 minutes. It's garbage time, as what they would call in basketball. The results already been confirmed. They're just giving the second team a run out to keep their fitness up.
Tony and I will remember in the Martin O'Neill era the amount of players that we spent between $500,000 and $1 million on, who to reinforce Ryan's point, instead of having half a dozen of them, we should have had an oven ready, solid, like Neil Lennon type, 6 million.
Well, you look at the players, Ulrich Lawson, David Fernandez, Momo Salah. There's umpteen of them.
Steve Guppy.
Yeah, guys.
Marcus, then don't even tell me about Headman.
Yeah,
so
correct. And but I don't know, Ryan. If you said there you would maybe target them in the summer? Would you not maybe bring them in January so that you?
Thing is, I think these players are at a premium.
I know they're at a premium, but you've known that anyway. Mm-hmm. And I think the manager's banged on about quality, and again, trying to connect dots and read between the lines. I think he's got his eyes on somebody, or players that he can get, i.e. in January, because he's also said it's not impossible to do good business in January. So I might be surmising here, but I think that he's got a list that he's presenting to the board and saying we can get him, and then bring them in. And by the time you come to summer, the new season, they have maybe hit the ground running and they're assimilated into your setup and all that. I could be wrong in that, but
I think one of the jobs that Mark Lawwell should do in January is compile a short list of every single defensive midfielder that's got 6 months left in their deal and pose the question to every single one of them. Maybe there's a reason why they've only got 6 months left in their deal. I don't know. But if you've got a player with guaranteed quality that you could bring in, you could offer a good wage. You could offer the fact that it's a pre-contract. You could then try and get a nominal fee for him to come in the January. I just think this position, Celtic will make the money back if they sign a good player with the wins that they'll get in the Champions League or Europa League, because they put out fires before the fires even happen for the defenders. It's last ditch when it gets to the defenders. Unfortunately, Cal McGregor showed his limitations in that defensive midfield role against Atletico Madrid. I think that's his worst game in years against Atletico Madrid. He was like a boy against men, unfortunately. And when that's your captain, then you're really, really going to struggle against a team of veterans in Atletico Madrid. I just think as a number 6 solves those problems, and that's a position that's got to be rectified very soon.
Kevin, I can't. You can't keep using the same. We come up against quality and experience and all that when Celtic do have money there and don't don't spend it in terms of being the best version that they can be. Celtic should push that envelope to go and get that player, a left back and that midfielder. Push the financial envelope to as far as they are willing to go. That be £7-8 million. I'm not saying be, fiscally stupid, but they do have a bit of leeway there with the finances that they have in the bank. So
yeah, we do, but we're hamstrung. We're hamstrung, right? And I know we've discussed this before, but there's another element to this, because the other way that we're hamstrung is that we seem to be locked into an arrangement with one particular sports agency, which are connected to Manchester City through Peter Lawwell's son. We know who we're talking about here, but it seems that we only deal with one approved agent or connections thereof. And so no matter what the scouting, no matter what our scouting setup is, no matter how well they're doing their job, but because there's so much secrecy involved in Celtic, and because there's such a reluctance on the part of the custodians to tell us anything, to actually reveal anything of the workings of the club, we'll never know. But the signs are that we only seem to do business with, a very, very narrow, exclusive, agency, I don't know. I don't know if that impacts on our ability to cast the net wide throughout Europe if the business isn't being done by an approved.
It shouldn't.
But there's something that stinks there, I'm afraid to say, and I'd like to know what the full story is. Every time we sign somebody or we've got our eye on somebody, you're always asking the second question: who is it that set that up? What are the connections there? And I don't think our recent record in signing players over the last 2 years are what passes for a strategy. We've said it before. We bought half a dozen players at least during the summer who were not oven ready. They were not ready immediately to get straight into the team, be competitive, and certainly play immediately at Champions League level.
Yeah, agree with that. Well, it's a Champions League match day 5 tonight. Celtic playing Lazio, Stadio Olimpico in Rome. Wonderful venue. But hey, Celtic need to win. I'll pose the question to both Ryan and Kevin. Will they win? Can they win? What's your prediction, Ryan? Or are you going to keep that for the pre-match?
I'll keep it brief, and then we'll go on the pre-match and discuss that in more length. Can they win? Yes. Will they win? Depends what Celtic turn up, really. If they're disciplined, then yes. But discipline is key tonight. 11 men v 11 men, they've got a chance. Don't hamstring yourself. And allow the balance to swing because of a depletion of players. So if they can keep it disciplined, then yes, they've got every opportunity. But, they've got to keep, as they say in Scotland, keep the heat.
Kevin?
Yeah. Can they win? Not out with the bounds of possibility. Will they win? I doubt it. I'll go for a draw.
You go for a draw?
Yeah, I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
Okay, myself and Ryan will be
on
the
enough, of course.
Yes, of course. Myself and Ryan will be on the pre-match show. But Kevin, thanks a lot. It's nearly an hour and 10 minutes. It's
no bother. My pleasure.
Quick, wasn't it? It was quick. But and just direct you to the top of the screen. Celtic Way Morning Briefing, sponsored by MPH Group for all your plumbing, heating, kitchen and bathroom needs. And as well as a Navien promotion, check out the links to their social media sites in the description of this video. And we urge and implore you to take up this offer. It's the best ever subscription offer. Celtic Way, it's £12 for 12 months. It ends this Friday. It's our Black Friday deal. It's a wonderful value for money. Get all sorts of access to everything that's written on the website. We do the YouTube videos for free, but it's subscriptions that help us do that. And we can't emphasise enough how important that is to our day-to-day runnings and what we produce on the programme. But we say thank you to everybody that's taken up the subscription offer since Friday. We thank our current subscribers. Sorry about not flicking up comments today. We're just getting engrossed and lost in the chat, as you do, and you have stellar guests like Kevin, and the three of us are. It's very rare to have three of us on, so just give everybody their platform.
It's a good dynamic.
Yeah, we enjoyed that. Kevin, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I mean,
no bother.
Anybody that can shoehorn Mike Summerby in 1970s Man City into
actually, I was probably slightly inaccurate. Mike Summerby was quite creative. I think I might have been thinking about Big Doyle. But yeah, listen, that's just been down a rabbit hole. That's a Celtic da rabbit hole.
I just like it whenever you do your Celtic da rabbit holes that I don't get lost down them. I'm still clued up, and I think I know what he's talking about. You know what I mean? Ryan just looks at the pair of us and says, "Pair of old ranters."
I don't know who Mike Summerby is.
Ryan's looking at me and you, Kevin, like Statler and Waldorf and the Muppets on the balcony, isn't he? You know, the two old men just hurling abuse and that. You know, so yeah, indeed. But guys, thank you so much.
All the best.
Aye, what a cracking podcast. Result dependent, of course. We'll be on the pre-match show, myself and Ryan. Kevin, enjoy the game tonight if you can.
Thank you.
Hope you're not watching
Take care.
Too splayed fingers too much. Take care, Kevin. Thanks a lot. Guys, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Kevin, obviously a busy man away to do his various things. But Ryan, thank you. I think that's one of the longest we've ever done, isn't it?
It was good discussion, but it was good general discussion as well. Yeah. But we'll need to keep some of it for the pre and post match as well.
I'm half expecting to see David Coleman saying with world WR flashing in the top of your screen, a new world record for the Celtic Way Morning Briefing podcast. But there you go. Guys, as ever, a pleasure. Thank you. We'll flick up your comments in the pre-match and post-match. We just, as I say, get engrossed in the conversation, and it's hard not to when Kevin's around. But hope you enjoyed that. Take care. And we'll see you later on, Ryan. We'll be on roughly when the teams are announced, possibly, yeah?
So about 4:30.
4:30. Excellent. Welsh Paul comes in. Brilliant stuff, boys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Take care and enjoy. Well, as I say, you can rejoin us pre-match and post-match. We'll dissect everything. But yeah, it's looking forward to it, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it than I was at the beginning of this podcast. So you've charmed me. You've charmed me for this game tonight. Fingers crossed that Celtic can deliver as well.
Indeed, guys. We shall see you later on today about 4:30. Take care. All the best. See you then.
Cheers, guys.